couple of new buildings under them, Chester. It looks like there's another being started.
At least they got some trees. A couple new buildings under them. They're on the Canadian River.
Oh, we can ask him the saloon.
Who knows where any of those men come from?
The Red Deer, that's a pretty fancy name.
Maybe we can find out if there are any respectable citizens.
Oh, are respectable or otherwise. Oh, I sure could use a drink, Mr. Dillon.
Well, I figure we've earned one.
Dillon, what'll it be?
Beer.
Oh.
One beer.
There now. I've seen you yet, Miss Tom. Here's how.
Tascosa's changed some.
You been there before?
Yeah, some time ago. What's the new building they're putting up?
Oh, that's going to be a schoolhouse.
A schoolhouse?
In Tascosa? There's a few men have moved into town with their families. You need a school, so it was Nat, of course, got it organized.
Nat?
Nat Timble, he owns the Red Deer here.
Oh, I see. He must be sort of a leading citizen here, then, huh?
In most ways, I suppose he is.
I'd like to talk to him. Where is he?
Out back, building the fence. Door's right there.
Oh, thanks. There's your money. See you later.
Sure.
Hello, Mr. Timble.
Nat Timble.
Oh,
I'm Matt Dillon, and this is Chester Proctor.
ran out of fucking names.
Barkeep told us that we'd find you out here.
Yes, Mike Bosley, a good boy.
I gathered from him that you were the right fellow to come to, Mr. Timble.
What can I do for you?
Looking for a man.
You are? Why?
I'm U.S. Marshal.
We don't get the law down here often, Marshal.
No. Man I'm looking for is Dane Shaw. Do you know him?
Nobody by that name around here?
Oh, I expect he's...
Come on. We can do this. Come on.
He's got a scar across his ribs.
It isn't often you see a man without a shirt, Marshal. What you want it for?
He used to ride with Billy the Kid. He quit, but they think he might be planning to return to New Mexico with a different bunch, one of his own, maybe.
Then it'd be better to stop him now, if that's true.
I agree. That's why I'm here.
Well, wish I could help you, Marshal. What are you going to do?
I don't know. Stay around for a day or so, I guess. Maybe I'll hear something.
Fine. You know, it'd be too bad since that fella quit the Kid if he went back to the same old outlaw life.
Sure. But he probably will.
The fact of the matter is that we are in a generational crisis in healthcare, and it is for this moment that the healthcare system and frontline workers have been preparing, and we need to be really focused on the task ahead of us in the next 4 to 6 weeks. And for anyone who's going to get in the way of that task, really have no time for it. It's nonsense. And anyone who's not helping in the fight against COVID, in my view, just needs to stay out of the way and let the people who are willing to make those sacrifices do the work that needs to be done.
I got some correspondence last night from people who said, Chuck, they were disappointed Chuck, because you're not engaging.
Sure.
I just, we've been into this for a year. I don't want to engage such nonsense. I mean, what am I going to do? If someone after a year of observing this still doesn't get it, what the heck can I really say except, we're moving on. There's no public interest there, in my opinion. I guess we share that, Doctor. But I want to go on to something that is more substantive in terms of naysayers or maybe people who don't take it as seriously. It just seems to me that the various governments in this country, including the government that has jurisdiction over you and your team, that would be the Ontario government, still doesn't seem to be taking seriously the fact that much of the COVID is coming from people they happen not to be in touch with in their social lives, let's just call them working class people, working in very congested spaces and processing plants and other services that are considered very, very essential. And it's very difficult for them to get away to get vaccination. It's very difficult for them to take any sick days because they're not given sick days. It goes on and on and on. But my point is, I'm just wondering how much of a wall there is intellectually between the people who are the decision makers and some of the working people in Ontario who are most vulnerable.
You know, I agree with that. I take a more cynical view, perhaps, than you, and that is when it comes to people who work in factories and the people who deliver our essential goods and the people working in grocery stores, but also to our nurses and allied health professionals and doctors and frontline workers. I think the message that is being sent is this tacit message that the fruit of your labor and your contribution to society is of greater value than the safeguarding of your health and well-being. And I think it's a very dangerous message to send. And I think it's that kind of tacit message that also contributes to the higher prevalence and impact of COVID on populations that are most vulnerable, that are most marginalized, and that are of lower socioeconomic status.
My goodness, I've never heard a doctor on this show speak that way. I mean, are you telling me that you believe that the people who are making life and death decisions at the government level,
these other things Catherine was talking about?
Yes, I can. Take formaldehyde. It's been used for decades in vaccines to inactivate viruses and detoxify bacterial toxins. Simply put, it makes vaccines safer. It sounds like a harsh man-made chemical, and it can be harmful at very high doses. But it's also something that occurs naturally in our bodies. For instance, a baby has around 1 milligram of formaldehyde already in their body. Any vaccine they get will include a tiny fraction of that, maybe 2/100ths at the most.
Okay, and ethyl mercury and methyl mercury, what's the difference?
So the type of mercury found in vaccines is ethyl mercury. It's different from methyl mercury, the type commonly found in fish and known to be harmful in large amounts. Ethyl mercury is broken down and leaves the body much more quickly than methyl mercury.
And of course, I left the argument because I couldn't answer those questions. I couldn't, and I felt so undermined. I felt so deflated. And I began to start recognizing my own limitations, that I didn't have the expertise to debate with these people online at all. But that wasn't enough for me. I'm not typically one to let things go.
From talking to other people who subscribe to online conspiracies, I know that this is often the point when people double down on their beliefs. But Catherine took a different path. She began to really realise how a lot of what she was seeing online was playing on her fears and emotions, and she started investigating.
The discovery of actually how vaccines were made me second guess the possible harmful nature of these vaccines, and that actually they were probably a lot more safe than I believed them to be. And then naturally I started to look at slightly more mainstream views or slightly more well accepted research studies, and I realized that there were thousands. It wasn't one or two videos, it wasn't, you know, a few hundred scientists. There was this whole wealth of information that I'd never tapped into before because I was so sure of my beliefs I didn't need to. I was right. I realized that these people were actually harnessing the cultural changes in our lives to make money. The likes, the followers, the subscribers, the hits, the advertising, it all became, you know, another conspiracy to me, if you like, and that actually their intentions might not be as pure as I originally thought they were.
And then came the pandemic. Let's catch up to the present moment. What does Catherine think now?
I'm not surprised at all by the conspiracy theories surrounding the vaccines. My reaction to it has been one of alarm and one of concern that it may well affect people's decision to have a vaccine, knowing that the way this information was spread online.
Catherine gave me a few tips from her own experience for challenging and speaking to someone you know who believes these extreme conspiracy theories. First, ask, why are there no whistleblowers?
If there was some grand conspiracy at play here, how many people would need to be involved in that theory, all the way from the top down? You are talking hundreds of thousands of people would need to be involved in this theory. What are the odds of nobody saying anything?
Her second tip is, question how these supposed plots would even work.
More often than not, conspiracy theories now come with a certain amount of evidence, but a lot of the time there are huge gaps between correlation and causation. For example, we have a lot of faith in these conspiracy types to be superhuman and super efficient at getting a job done beyond all normal recognition of human capabilities. The idea that they have the capability to oversee something as grand as a global pandemic, a computer would struggle to predict all the possible things that could go wrong.
And her third tip, be patient and avoid labeling people. Talk about conspiracy theories, but try not to call people conspiracy theorists.
Giving people a label doesn't actually help the situation as such. You need to be able to talk to people and understand their fears, understand their concerns. It needs to be a much gentler approach. So I think labeling any form of society isn't necessarily a good thing. I think part of me will always still be in the rabbit hole. We all like to feel in control of our lives, and we all like to feel we've got some understanding of the way the world works, when in reality it's a lot more chaotic and almost too much for one person to understand. But I will always be attracted to conspiracy theories, but much now more from the angle of exposing them and putting my mind at rest, if you like, that perhaps some of these ideas are just simply not true.
That's it this week from Trending. My thanks to Mariana and to Joseph Martin, our producer. If you want to get in touch with your thoughts on this
and the news that matters to you.
I'd be foolish not to take advantage of your husband's human business. What, you do me the honor?
No offense, Marshal, but I'd rather get a breath of air outside.
Why, certainly, ma'am.
Would you accompany me?
Why, of course. Nice evening.
You think it'll hold, Marshal?
Oh, it won't rain. Not for the next couple of days, anyway.
That's not exactly what I meant. I was wondering how nice tomorrow evening will be.
Afraid I don't quite follow, ma'am.
After Harry Gunter and his gang ride in.
Oh. Well, now, I wouldn't worry about that, Miss Timble.
My husband's involved, Marshal. I'm bound to worry.
Of course.
It's not that I don't want him to back Mike Postle and fight alongside him. He's got to do that. But I don't want him killed. He's the finest man that ever lived, Marshal.
Yeah, sure, Miss Timble.
He believes that a man's got a right to change, and he's willing to die for that.
I know.
Tell me, do you think he's right, Marshal Dillon? In spite of what the law might say, do you think he's right?
I think he's right, ma'am.
I had a feeling you would.
But maybe things will work out all right tomorrow. Maybe everything will be fine.
I hope so, Marshal. Anyway, I'll bring our son up to know his father for the rare kind of man he is.
Oh? I didn't know you had a son.
We haven't yet.
What?
I haven't even told Nat. But we're going to have one, Marshal.
Oh, I see.
Shall we go in now? And I'll be your partner for the next dance, if you like.
What? I'd be proud, Miss Timble. Real proud. Next morning, and early, Chester and I saddled up and rode out past the edge of town to the south. There we pulled off the trail into a clump of scrub cedar and waited. Beyond us lay the Canadian River, and across it broad vegas of spring-fed meadow grass. As we watched, a buffalo, cow, and calf came to the river and drank. And then they suddenly moved off upstream and disappeared in the mesquite. And a moment later, 6 horsemen came out of the distance, riding hard for the river and for Tascosa.
I reckon that's them, Mr. Dillon.
You, don't have to do this, Chester.
I know it. Any objections to me using a rifle?
There are no rules in this game.
I'll feel a slight closure behind the Winchester.
Eyes open, Chester.
Yes.
Come on. All right, hold it, Connor.
Oh! Who are you?
I'm a U.S. Marshal. My name's Matt Dillon.
And the fellow we saw was from Connor the other day at the Red Deer.
Yeah.
Get off the trail, Marshal. You got no business with us.
Turn around and right back where you came from, Cutter. Mike Postle's staying in Tascosa.
Postle, eh? So you're in on this, too?
I've dealt myself in, Cutter. Now do as I say. And keep away from Tascosa from now on, or I'll get a posse and come after the bunch of you.
We don't need any lawmen down here, Marshal. Who's that? It's Kimball and Mike, Mr. Dillon.
How did they know we were out here?
Looks like we won't have to go into Tascosa, Marshal. We can settle this right here.
You were missing this morning, Marshal. I kind of figured we'd find you hereabouts.
You and Kimball both ought to stay out of this. This is my trouble.
It's a little late for that now, Postle. Well, the odds are down, Gunner.
They sure are. I ain't facing all them.
Come on, Gunner.
We'll catch Parker later when there ain't such a crowd.
There we are.
Not me. I'm going.
Shut up.
Kimball, you're responsible for this.
I'm proud of it, Gunner.
Get him and Postle, men. Get that. Should we go after them 3?
No, let them go, Chester. They won't be back. Temple's been hit.
How is he, Marshal?
He got hit bad. Chester, go see if Gunner and those other 2 are really dead.
Yes. Told him not to come along. He wouldn't listen to me. Here, let me pick him up and get him back to town.
No, it's no use. He's done for, Postle.
Are you sure?
He was dead before he hit the ground.
We finished him, sir. All 3 of them. Take more than 3 of them to be worth that Temple.
I'm sorry, Postle.
Done enough for me already. Why do you have to come here? This was my fight, not his.
No, Postle, not the way he looked at it. You see, Timble himself went straight a couple of years back.
He did?
Yeah. I came down here carrying a warrant for his arrest.
You ain't gonna be able to take him in now, are you, Marshal?
No, I'm not.
You know, I'm kind of mixed up about you. Coming down here to arrest him and then meeting Gunner and them out here today.
I'm not important, Postle. Just you remember what kind of man Timble was.
I ain't likely to forget. I'll swear to that, Marshal.
Good. Look, you and Chester stay here. I'll send a wagon out from town. I'm going in to see Miss Timble.
You'll be going back to Dodge now, Marshal.
Yes, ma'am, I will.
I want to thank you for trying to stop it.
It's my job.
No, not quite. Well, I guess Mike will have to run things now.
He's a good man. He'll make out fine.
Sure. Tell me one thing, Marshal.
Yes, ma'am.
I know you came here to arrest my husband.
I figured you did.
If this hadn't happened today, would you really have taken him back?
Miss Temple, I don't know. But I'll tell you one thing. If I had, it'd have been my last act as a lawman.
You mean you'd have quit after?
I'd have quit.
If you're around Tascosa again, Marshal, come and see us. Me and the baby.
I'd be proud to, man. Real proud.
Gunsmoke, under the direction of Norman Macdonald, stars William Conrad as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal. Tonight's story was specially written for Gunsmoke by John Meston, with music composed and conducted by Rex Corey. Featured in the cast were John Daner and Tom Tully, with Harry Bartell, Paul Dubov, Helen Queeb, and James Nusser. Harley Bear is Chester, Howard McNear is Doc. Gunsmoke has been selected by the Armed Forces Radio Service to be heard by our troops overseas. Join us again next week as Matt Dillon, U.S. Marshal, fights to bring law and order out of the wild violence of the West in Gunsmoke. Tennessee and Virginia are the home states for CBS Radio's Saturday Night Country Style, just a bit later tonight. That's where the rural rhythm's coming from, but it's going out all over the country on most of these same stations. This is George Walsh speaking, and remember, you'll find Western adventure and music with Gene Autry Sunday evenings on the CBS Radio Network.
You're listening to Chin Radio AM 1540, the voice of multicultural Toronto, bringing you the latest updates on COVID-19. Stay informed, stay safe, and stay tuned to Chin Radio AM 1540.
Sound off for Chesterfield. Chesterfield, low in nicotine, highest in quality, best for you. Chesterfield brings you Dragnet. Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to hear is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. You're a detective sergeant. You're assigned to forgery detail. For the past 6 years, a forger has been working in your city. The victims describe the suspect as a woman. Her MO is simple, but it continues to work. Your job, stop her. Smokers by the thousands are now changing to Chesterfields. No wonder. More and more smokers are learning this fact for themselves. Chesterfield, low in nicotine, highest in quality. A published fact, proved by chemical analyses of the country's 6 leading cigarette brands. Chesterfield, the only cigarette ever with a record like this. Regular or king size, Chesterfield is best for you. Dragnet, the documented drama of an actual crime. For the next 30 minutes, in cooperation with the Los Angeles Police Department, you will travel step by step on the side of the law through an actual case transcribed from official police files. From beginning to end, from crime to punishment, Dragnet is the story of your police force in action.
It was Friday, September 18th. It was warm in Los Angeles. We were working the day watch out of forgery detail. My partner's Frank Smith. The boss is Captain Welch. My name's Friday. We were on our way out from the office. It was 10:42 a.m. when we got to the 9th floor of the Beckworth department store, the credit manager's office.
Yes?
We'd like to see Mr. Donaldson, please.
Yes, he was calling.
Sergeant Friday, Los Angeles Police Department.
Oh, yes, he's expecting you. Just a moment.
Thank you.
Yes?
The gentlemen from the police department are here, Mr. Donaldson.
Send them in, please.
Yes, sir. You want to go right in? That's the door.
Thank you very much.
Come on in, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Donaldson?
Yes?
I'm Sergeant Friday. This is my partner, Frank Smith.
How do you do?
How you doing?
Sit down.
Thank you very much. Now, you want to tell us what this is all about?
Well, it's little mother again. I've got the receipt here on the desk. Is Sergeant Ferguson still working on this case?
Yes, sir.
I talked to him the last time we were stuck.
Usual type of things charged?
Yes, children's shoes, dresses, sweaters, same as always.
I see. Now, I wonder if I could have those slips, Mr. Donaldson.
Sure. Here you are.
Thank you.
All made out the same day.
Mm-hmm. August 22nd.
Yes, our experience is that she usually comes in on a Saturday. It seems that the store is more crowded then, and the girls don't take any more time to verify the accounts than they have to.
Can I see those, John? Yeah, here you are. Thanks. Wonder if we could talk to the sales girl who waited on her.
Sure. I'll have her set up.
Fine.
Yes, sir.
Miss Firestone, would you please have Mrs. Allen set up?
Yes, sir.
I noticed here the only items charged not for children is a woman's slip.
Yes, we've had a couple of them in the past, pieces of women's clothing. I talked to Sergeant Ferguson about it when he was here.
Mm-hmm. Did you get the bulletin we sent out this month?
Beg pardon? The bulletin giving the woman's description, samples of her handwriting. Did you get it?
Yes, sir, we did. You've got to understand, Sergeant. This is one of the biggest stores in the city. We do a lot of business. It'll be almost impossible to alert all of the sales girls to watch for a woman.
Yes, sir, we understand that, but was the description sent to the children's department?
It was. It didn't do any good, though. If a woman charged large amounts, it might be easier, but look at the sales strips yourself. $4 shoes, $3 dresses. There's nothing to make a charge like that stand out. We make sure that there's an account in the name and then let it go.
Don't you use the charger plate system?
Yes, we do, but if a customer wants to charge an item and hasn't got the plate, we usually just verify the account and let them sign the sales slip.
Well, how about identification?
Well, normally we do ask for it. As I said, these sales are such small amounts, and the woman comes in when the store is crowded. The girls just call the credit department, let her sign the receipt.
Let's see.
Oh, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Alan's here.
Oh, all right. Just a moment.
Yes, sir.
The woman who waited on her is out in the office. Do you want to talk to her in here?
Well, we don't want to take up any more of your time, sir. We can see her out there.
All right. If there's anything else you need, I'll be here.
Yes, sir.
Oh, officer.
Yes, sir.
You know what? I feel a little funny about this thing.
Why is that, sir?
Well, the things she's charged. What's that? Things she's taken, they were almost all kids' clothes. Doesn't seem to be interested in anything else. Total amounts of the articles she's taken don't add up to much. It's the principle of the thing more than the value. It just seems that the only thing she's interested in is the children. Yeah, it feels a little funny to call the police about a person like that.
Yes, sir, we understand.
We've got a lot of this going on, but the others, they take things for themselves. Luxuries, expensive items. But she doesn't. Just with kids. She doesn't seem to be at all interested in herself.
Well, we are.
Yes, well, I suppose so. Well, I'll be here if you need anything more.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Thanks very much. We'll be in touch with you.
You'll bring the sales slips back, won't you?
Yes, sir. As soon as we've had the chance to photograph them.
Well, I hope you can do something about it.
Yes, sir. So do we. Thank you very much.
Anything you need, you let me know.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Just a moment. Mrs. Allen, these are the police officers.
How you doing, ma'am? I'm Sergeant Friday. This is my partner, Frank Smith.
Hello.
How you doing, Miss Allen? You want to sit down over here, please?
Yes, all right. I feel just terrible about this.
Ma'am?
All this forgery thing.
Now, you waited on the woman, did you?
Yes, at least in the little girl's department.
Uh-huh. What if you could describe her for us?
Well, she was a little woman. I'd say a 10.
How's that again, ma'am?
A size 10.
Oh.
5'1", about 105 pounds. Cute as a button.
Mm-hmm. Did she have the children with her?
No, she didn't. I thought it was a little funny at the time, but as I say, we were so busy with the school rush that afternoon that none of us girls had a chance to really think about anything.
Yes, ma'am. What color hair did she have?
Kind of sandy color. Guess you'd call it a blonde. Wore it up in a bun. Back there.
Yes, ma'am.
The other girls noticed it. Long. Looked nice. Different than all the other short haircuts. Kind of old-fashioned and homey.
Yes, ma'am. How was she dressed?
Not very well. A little blue hat, dark coat, cloth coat. Collar came up like this, Slash pockets. Nice, but not expensive.
I say, ma'am, now would you know her if you saw her again?
Oh, my, yes, sure would.
Well, we'd like you to come over to our office and look at some pictures, if you would.
All right. I'll have to talk to the floor manager.
We'll take care of that, Miss Allen.
All right. You think that you might have a picture of her?
We don't know.
I kind of hope not.
Ma'am?
I hope you don't have a picture. I guess it's a little simple to even think of it, but she had a reason for what she did. I'm sure of it.
Why do you say that, Mrs. Allen?
Officer, I've been selling for a long time. I met a lot of people in that time. Nice ones and nasty ones. And believe me, this is one of the sweetest people I've ever served.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that you call her the little mother. Is that right?
No, we don't, ma'am. That's what the newspapers call her.
Well, it fits her to a T. Right to a T. Where she bustled around those dresses, looking, testing. She was just like a mother hen trying to find something for her brood. Little doll, cute as a button. She just got to have a reason for what she's doing.
Sergeant Friday?
Yes, Mr. Donaldson?
I'm glad I caught you. I think we've got it.
Sir?
The little mother is downstairs now.
For the last 6 years, the same woman had been operating in the downtown department stores. During that period, she'd forged a total of $1,300 worth of merchandise that we knew of. Because of her MO, there was no way of telling how much more had gone undetected. The operation was a simple one. She'd enter a store, go to one of the departments. There she'd pick up articles of apparel, mostly for children, and then ask to charge them. She'd explain that she'd forgotten her charger plate, and after the account had been verified, she'd sign the charge slip. These slips would be put in the mail to the people who maintained the account, and it wouldn't be until they noticed a discrepancy that we'd be notified. Usually a month would pass between the time the clothing was taken and we were told of it. In the 6 years that the Little Mother, as the newspapers had dubbed her, had been operating, almost every team of detectives in the forgery detail had worked on the case. Statements from sales girls who waited on her were taken. Photostats of the sales slips were made. Witnesses were interrogated. And then when the sum total of actual physical evidence was weighed and sifted, there was no lead to the identity of the forger. The police department had gotten out printed bulletins and copies of composite drawings of the suspect, and these had been distributed to all department stores in the area. But because of the suspect's appearance and the way she operated, none of the victims became suspicious in time to notify us. The department store's protective league was working with us, but they met with the same dead ends that we'd found. Meanwhile, the evidence continued to pile up. The operation continued to work. When the manager of Beckwith's department store told us that the suspect was in the store, Frank and I were able to come up with the first concrete lead we'd had since we'd been working on the case. In the company of the manager and the saleswoman, Mrs. Myra Allen, Frank and I went down to the boys' department where the suspect was reported to be.
Down this way.
Yes, sir.
The girl said she was over by boys' suits. I hope they were able to hold her.
Mm-hmm.
Just a minute.
Yes, sir.
I know I don't have to tell you, gentlemen, about the store's liability in a situation like this.
No, sir.
Now, I'm sure it's her, but it could be very embarrassing and expensive to the store if we made a mistake.
All right, sir, we understand.
Good. Over here.
All right.
Mr. Donaldson? Mr. Donaldson?
Yes, Miss Franklin. Where is she?
It's not my fault. You've got to believe that.
What's the matter, miss?
Don't tell me you stopped the wrong person. You caused trouble with an innocent party and she could sue the store.
I'm sorry, Mr. Donaldson.
Where's the woman, miss?
That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yes, ma'am.
She wouldn't wait.
A quick search of the immediate vicinity in the store failed to turn up the suspect. The department store security staff was notified and a watch was put on all of the doors. The credit department was notified and they took action. We checked with the elevator operators. We found one that told us she'd seen a woman who answered the description get in her car. She explained that the woman seemed to be in a hurry and had left the elevator as soon as it had reached the main floor. A further check of the store netted us nothing. The suspect had escaped. In the downtown crowds, it would have been almost impossible to try to find her on the streets. However, an additional broadcast carrying a complete description of the clothing she was wearing was gotten out to all cars in the area. The first good chance we'd had for apprehending her was gone. We had to go back to the legwork and the waiting. 3 months passed. During that time, Frank and I cleaned up a series of counterfeit payroll check cashings. Another 30 days went by without activity for the Little Mother. There were 4 new sales slips added to the file, but when the leads resulting from these were checked out, we were no closer to her than we'd been 6 years before. Thursday, December 17th, 12:55 p.m. I checked into the office.
Joe, that you?
Yeah. What do you got?
Oh, just talked to Skipper.
Yeah. Got a couple of more beefs about the Little Mother. When they come in?
This morning.
Where are they?
Oh, I guess it is. From Mrs. Ross and Neiman. I called the stores and got